This is the mountain where me and God come into agreement. And we do it by talking. We believe that agreement is the place of power for us, whether it be our family, our marriage, our ministry, our church. The biggest problem with communication is that we all think we're doing it really well. But then how come 40, 50 years later, communication is still the biggest problem that we have in like any organization? There's a pile of good books and courses and messages and all kind of stuff for learning how to communicate. But it doesn't seem to matter how much we know about communication. We can still fail actually quite miserably at it. And that brings us to realize that communication is really not so much skill, but motivation. Think of it this way. Pastor Rich and me have particularly granddaughters, right? Granddaughters are really good at this. And when they want something, even when they're too young to really talk very much, they can communicate very clearly. Why? Because there's a passion behind it. And it's the same thing with you and me. When there's something that we need or something that we really want, we don't have any problem communicating. We will find a way to get the message across. Number one, communicate. Number two, negotiate. Communicate and negotiate. It's a negotiation that we enter into so that each one of us look at what would be our role in this vision. How do we fit into this vision? And what is my future in the vision? That's a huge one. And so we have a vision for our own lives too, and that has to be negotiated into the main vision. So the biggest challenge in communication is really the negotiation part of it. If you go to buy a car, used car particularly, and you see one you like and you talk to the salesman and they want whatever amount of money for it, and you come down a little bit and they say, no, I can't do that, and they come down a little bit and you go up a little bit and you negotiate a price. And but there's always another element too, and that is he's going to tell you that you better make your decision because there's some other guys seriously looking at this car. And that's when I say, if this is a car that's really good for them, I would rather that they have it, because they probably need to have a good car. And that just takes the pressure out of the decision, right? Because one thing you want to do is, in negotiation, zero manipulation. Okay? Because as soon as you got manipulation, well, it's really a lie, right? So how do we add the negotiation into the communication to produce the agreement? Well, listening with a heart that's concerned about the other person. This covenant thing, right? I really care about not only what you think about, but I care about where you feel that you're going, the journey. Okay, there's another video coming right away called Journey, and it's about how we can listen and negotiate with the people on our team so that we're not leaving them in the dust, and that they're not like working in a team and their mind is somewhere else. So we need to have communication and negotiation that is motivated out of the will and the desire to see people do well. Motivated out of love. Right? We say that our leadership model is the one that Jesus gave in Luke chapter 6, where he named his apostles and he came down onto a level place. And then they started to minister to people. Came down onto a level place. It's really important that we minister from a level place, not a hierarchy, right? But leaders, we've got a lot of stuff going on. We got a lot of stuff we need to accomplish. And we need to bring order and bring it quickly. But if you become bossy, that's out of character. If you see me as your boss, you're going to be really disappointed in me. Because I can't perform at a high enough level to fulfill the requirements of being your boss. But if I serve you as an apostolic father, or whatever ministry you're in, you serve the people around you like that, then you're helping people get where they need to go, and you're not requiring anything from them that lifts you up. We're requiring them to serve together with us, of course, and we set that example. And that's what we do, because agreement is the place of our power. And I absolutely agree with what God has called you to do, so much so that I'm willing to serve you to help that come to pass. Honestly, you've got to negotiate this with yourself. And that is, how much of the intensity of my life am I going to just pour into charging and moving this thing ahead? And how much of the intensity of my life, the energy of my life, am I going to slow down and invest in the people that I'm trying to build? Because everybody is going to be mobilized by seeing their future in the vision. And so that's a serious question. Where do you see yourself in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years? You could come away from a meeting or whatever and feel like I communicated the vision very clearly. Well, no, you didn't. You just talked. Then there's the idea, well, okay, we need to include an element of listening into our communication, because then it's not just me talking. So listening to negotiate is very different from listening to straighten the person out, right? And we can certainly agree that teamwork and agreement is the place of power. But you don't accomplish agreement, you don't arrive at agreement by somebody coming along and saying, here's what we need to agree on. Because there's no negotiation in that. So just adding an element of listening to the communication formula does not guarantee agreement, because the issue is that people will only negotiate when they feel like they're actually being heard, and they'll know that they're being heard because there's a mutual engagement. A real good question is, do you remember why you came here? That's always a good question. Do you remember why you joined this team? Do you remember what caught your passion about this? Because those were the things that we were obviously in agreement about. And we've got to reinforce the idea that the reason that you came here is still valid, and the thing that you came for is still happening. Because if I don't know what you want, then how am I going to know what direction to lead in? Like, a lot of people think that sharing vision is just, casting vision is just me talking. You know, you'll be in a meeting and the leader will kind of clearly put the vision out there on the table, and then expect everyone to come into agreement with it, because that's the place of power. And so you like put your hand up. Can I say something? Sure, because we have a listening component added to our communication formula. So you'll share something about, well, have you considered this? Or, you know, I'm a little concerned about that, or whatever it may be. And you could tell that the leader is not listening to you, other than figuring out in his own mind at the same time how he's going to answer you to fix you, right? To correct you and to bring you back into that agreement. And then the leader feels like he has 100% agreement and is expecting a powerful outcome. So casting vision is one thing, but there's just as much that comes back as a negotiation. For those of you that have been around long enough, you know that I get most of my advice from my kids. Ever since you guys were little, I listened to you. I didn't know what's going on. Especially being a foreigner, you know, I didn't know how to do things. I didn't know what's going on. Listen to my kids. They're coming home from school, right? They're coming from church. They know what's going on. Here's how you tell if you have my agreement. I'll put money into it. Absolutely, every time. If we're doing something that I really agree on and it's really been communicated and I really see that we're in unity on this, I will definitely put money into it. Communication plus negotiation equals agreement. So genuine communication and true negotiation will take us to the place of agreement. And that place of agreement is where we become powerful. So how much is that worth? How much is it worth investing? How much is it worth giving up? You've got to have meetings. You know that I'm big on meetings, right? Not lame meetings, not boring meetings. I'm big on really good meetings, because that's where the negotiation takes place.